Where is it go live? Is it a link I can share?
What's up? We're here.
Hey.
We're live. Hi, everybody.
Happy Art Break Day.
Yes, happy Art Break Day again. We're here for another conversation with some amazing art advocates that we can't wait to speak with. So welcome, welcome.
Welcome, everybody, beautiful people. So what I'd love for you to do is just kind of go around and introduce yourselves, who you are, what do you do, and then answer the question in one word, what does art mean to you? So if Krupa, if you want to start first, that'd be fabulous.
Sure, such a big question.
I know, it's not a small question.
First, I just want to say it's amazing to be here with all of you, but especially Lisa and Lauren. It's our 8th Art Break Day here in India, so this is just amazing. It's great to celebrate all of this connection and community. Yeah, it's great. And so I am Krupa Diveri. I'm an expressive arts therapist now. I was an art therapist before that, just visual arts. And before that, I was actually a graphic designer. So art has been part of my life throughout. And I think I've really moved from product to process and really just supporting others to tell their stories. So I work with a lot of the local communities here in South India. And I'm sure we'll be talking more about all that's happened in the pandemic and, you know, many stories to share. But let's see, art for me is relationship.
Nice, nice. Patricia.
Oh, hi, I'm Patricia Vivicencia. I'm a clinical psychologist, PhD in psychology, health psychology, and I work in a hospital, in a public hospital, plus and in a mental health center unit for child and adolescents, and I'm trauma expert. And plus I'm a professor at the university. And I'm originally from Peru, South America, but I'm based here in Spain since a long time ago. And art for me is like air. I need it.
Yeah. Shraddha. Did I say that right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Hi, so I'm Shraddha. I'm an arts-based therapist and a counseling psychologist. I practice in Mumbai, India. I'm also a certified Zentangle teacher, and art for me means a lot to do with freedom.
Nice.
Yes, thank you.
And Amy.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying not to get distracted by the technical stuff. Okay, so I'm a technologist that always the art in heart since I was a baby. So my textbook, you know, filled with like doodling throughout my elementary, high school. Immigrant to US was really kind of allow me to go back to my art, you know, that since I was a child. My mom shared this funny story that, you know, she took me to visit my grandma and then she took a nap. Then all of a sudden I went to sing and dance by myself. And so that just shows you like how much I love art. But I really went back to my childhood love of music, dance, and art after my stage 4 cancer. You know, because I said that I was a technologist, so I was mostly working in technology. My undergrad is graphic design, but because I work in technology, it was mostly computer graphics, right? So when I got sick, I went back to my childhood love of music, dance, and arts, and forgot how sick I was. I started writing poetry. I picked up my art brushes after 12 years. And now I'm writing my book, which is full of poetry and art. And then I started a company called Dance for Healing, really committed to bring creative arts for those stuck at home like myself and elderly like my mom. So art for me, I think it's your soul.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Lauren, what does art mean to you?
Let's see. Well, right now it means connection. I feel like today we've created a good, like a really large amount of connection, and it's so great. Every time we have a conversation with folks like you, amazing women, I just feel more connected with my purpose as an artist. And I feel like there is like we have this great ability to connect, and art is that way to do that. So connection is what I would say now for the third time. It's so interesting to like be asked throughout a day of art breaking, and to realize, that it does shift all the time. What about you, Lisa?
Well, from today, and then of course my life, I think right now it is a force of love. I really feel it's a force of love, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's within everybody. So yeah.
It is. Yeah. Like we are ourselves, art. So that's awesome. And
Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much for taking the time. I know some of you folks had to wake up super early. It's like tomorrow for us. It's so confusing, and it's so great to be able to do this. It's the magic of the internet. And today we really have been talking about how art helps us cope. And so I'm just presenting that question to you to just get us started. How has art helped you cope? How does it just help people cope in society? If you have a belief about art and coping, just please share it, or stories. Just really want to use that as a jumping off point.
So anybody who wants to jump in. Amy, you want to share? I mean, your story is pretty profound. Like,
yeah, sure.
been through
I was slightly distracted trying to update all the links I shared on my Facebook and LinkedIn earlier.
Oh,
Yeah. So, so like I said, I went back to my childhood love of music, dance, and art when I got really sick. And when I call writing my meditation, so and that's sort of because I suck in meditation. But writing allowed me to just allow my creativity take me through this sort of journey, and it's a beautiful journey to kind of able to self dialogue and get me present to my thought process. And because sometimes your thoughts can be very stressful, but having it able to write it down, and I was lucky to be part of this writing through cancer program at Stanford. And most cancer patients, when you get sick, that's like the worst thing ever happened to your life, right? And so when you go to the school where we get to share after our writing, it's your choice, it's not an obligation. And then oftentimes we hear from other people how much difficulty they also gone through in their journey, right? And sometimes I had this like, wow, they have worse than me. And then human naturally had this string of like, whenever we write, there's always this at the end of the writing, you have a little bit of like, kind of coming out strong, or trying to like, it's a human nature, self-calming or whatever it is, right? And it just like incredible grounded for me, especially like, since I was lucky to survive and I become an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurship is very crazy. Oftentimes it can be up and down, and sometimes I forgot my self-care, forgot how hard that I fight to get my body back, right? And so it really kind of got me to be present. And then what's also interesting is some of these writing, some of them only 15 minutes, but I was able to write like poetry just coming out from nowhere. Literally 15 minutes, and it's like the whatever the poetry fellow decided to visit you, like, yeah, it was nice, just kind of having that sort of concentrated time that makes a lot. And then when I do the painting, what it does is like when you paint, when you so pay attention to the colors, the brushes and everything, you don't think about your sickness, right? Like, it's like allow your brain to take a break from like all these challenges that you have to deal with. In my case was cancer, and a lot of people could be other stressful things, right? That's why I think in general, probably not just writing art is a meditation. Yeah, and then I can share even more with music and dance, right? I think when I couldn't get out of the bed, I listened to music. When I'm in chemo, I listen to music. And then nowadays, I'm an entrepreneur. When I work, I listen to electronica music. There's this awesome radio station called Groove Salad, Soma FM. That gets me in the zone, and then that gets me focused. And then I notice that I'm less tired. Even I work multiple hours when I have my music on. But then sometimes I get tired. I was like, oh, I forgot my music. That kind of makes sense, right? And obviously dance, I kind of sort of dedicate my life now to, bring music, dance, and art start with dance, is because in addition to the power of creativity, dance also have, not only their physical component like exercise, but also have the neurological component like this one, reduce risk of dementia by 76%. And then this week, I really needed this break because technically we are submitting a grant next Tuesday, but we're probably going to submit this weekend for NIH to set up an intergenerational program for dementia patients, with creative arts, so like it was a lot of work. And then, we so present to the power of art, even just talking to some of our recruitment partners in these large outdoor centers and Alzheimer's associations and, like Institute on Aging, really got me present to the power. But I still need a break because it was like, oh my God, so like writing one is like writing a PhD thesis. So I was like, okay, I got to do this. That's why I'm here.
Great.
That's great. Does anyone else have a story that pops up for them?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I want to share that since I've been part of Amy's also group analysis with Eileen, and I happen to be part of it since I started doing interviews during COVID time. Well, I did many things for COVID during COVID times when artistically, I would say, yes, interviewing for me and photography and video is something that it's part of me. And so I did videos, and then I want to say that I'm a person who my grown-up years have been very focused on studies, but have a very artistic soul since my first choice would have been photography. I did photography at school in Lima, Peru, in a Swiss school, and I did black and white for many years, my high school years. But that I say to my parents, to patients, when they, they are so worried about academics, how their children do at school, and music and arts are left out since the kids don't have time to do that because they have to study a lot. And I say and share this personal experience since I went to that school, Swiss school, that it's a Pestalozzi pedagogy. It was a teacher in Switzerland, and the focus is kids must play a lot, and the music is part of the curricula, music, singing, and sports.
Hmm.
That gave me air to study. It's something that I would never, I always say that I would never be the person I am without that.
Yeah.
So I reached, uh, I could study because I did that. I went to school happily and focus on all the academia and learning in German and since I could play and sing and so that's something that has given me the air to be able to study and be a PhD in psychology and when I something that gives me um, my so I would say my being.
Mhm.
So when I think about myself, I don't think about my CV, which is huge because I'm old already. And that's something that, and photography was my first choice. But at the time I finished high school, it was not digital time. So I knew that it was going to be very, very expensive. So I decided not to pressure my parents to pay for photography school. Say no. And people say, on the other hand, you hear it in the community that arts don't give you a living, right? It's like, oh, why do you do this? This, you will starve, right? So choose other things. My parents never told me that. I took the decision at that time, 17 years old, to be a psychologist. I don't regret it. But on the other hand, since that is, empirical studies, and I done many of those empirical studies, and always wanted to come to into terms with art and psychology
Mhm.
and how to uh, uh, um, how to do that in my practice and be happy. And of course, you use art in assessment with kids and adults, and it's easier to for somebody when you ask kids, even kids, teenagers, do you mind doing a drawing for me? And they say, I don't know how to draw.
Mm.
It's like, how could you say that? Because
Mhm.
they are, we as adults in the community and society say, okay, stop drawing and let's focus on
Yeah.
and writing, right? and how did art help me to cope? I also had cancer
Mm.
10 years ago, and for me it's like long time ago, fortunately. And art helped me during that time. I was drained on my energy. I'm very hyperactive, and so most of the time I spend in bed. Fortunately, I did not have this, chemotherapy did not the worst effects on me. So I look healthy, although I was like drained, energy drained. So what I did at that time, it was painting, and I'm very good, I say, copying. That's one thing that I discovered, that I have a photography eye, so I focus. That's something that has helped me to cope and teach my patients it changed the frame of what you see. So so I started. Maybe I started before being sick, doing portraits of my son, and so I took pictures and then start copying. And people say, "Oh, you're an artist," and I say, "Yes, I'm a very good copyist." No, you should have a higher self-esteem. You do it. You do it. No, it's not something that I don't believe. Of course, everyone is an artist. Some have this ability, like me, like copying and being able to do art by copying, copying and copying.
Copying and copying. Thank you. Great. Shraddha, you want to share?
Yeah, sure. So for me, my journey with art, I've always been very inclined to art. But as Patricia shared, very conventionally, not very encouraged, specifically, the art teachers, not as a way to express, but more as a way that you need to be in a certain way. And like I said, art for me means a lot of freedom. So when that kind of was taken away, I think the purpose of it was totally lost. Till I was working in a rural, like I went for a rural art project in India, and I was I was wondering, how am I going to connect with people, because I didn't know the language. How would it be? And I think when we all came together and we just did art one day, and that was my first day. It was like something magical happened, and it really broke all boundaries, broke all barriers, and we formed such a beautiful relationship through art. And I remember so many times we art was the way we communicated, because we didn't know each other's language. And that opened up, I think that opened up a part of me which somewhere was perhaps lost in the conventional way of doing art. And after that, there's been no looking back in terms of how art has always been the way to use, especially in terms of my work, which is in the area of mental health, with chronic mental health, young adults, and how perhaps looking at them has also given me tremendous inspiration for my own self. So that in that ways, it's been a beautiful expression of interconnectedness, and how, and looking at each other, connecting with each other through art as a way of expression, as a way of healing, has been such a opening up of parts of my own self, in an attempt to work also with my client group in terms of working with their mental health. And absolutely for me, further doing more art, doing Zentangles, like pursuing the Zentangle teaching certification. And I think the warmth and connection through art has just been strengthened. Every time I feel I'm kind of losing touch, something comes up and it's like, hey, get going or get moving. And then, of course, art's found a lot of expression through photography, through movement, through digital art. And yeah, I think it's the way it's unfolding always is mystic and always amazes me. So that's how it's been for me.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Krupa.
It's wonderful to hear all of your stories and experiences, and it makes me kind of want to distill what has been most important. So I think for me, the constant has been journaling, you know, throughout life. Like I have, I think, 25 years, oh God, is it that long? You know, so many years of just journal after journal, recording and processing and having a safe space, having a container to be able to just reflect on who I am in that moment, what I'm feeling, you know, what I'm seeing in the world, what's troubling me, you know, all the emotions that I'm having. And I mean, it's just such a resource. I think that, you know, journaling especially has continuously been there to support me. And I would say, especially through the pandemic too, you know, we're all human beings. Even if I'm a therapist, I mean, we all have, it's been really a trying time. So to feel that humility and that humanness and to have, you know, a continued resource to come back to and to have it validated also by clients, of course, and see the ripple effects, all the potential it has, but kind of just coming back simply to it as a personal practice. And for me, what has been really helpful, I love just, you know, like Carl Jung did in his journal, just creating a circle and every day, you know, having a little space to see what's going on and be able to honestly reflect and look back to it. I also really love that art takes us off of technology. Like, this is wonderful, but I have such a love for the handmade, you know? I love this miraculous part of technology that connects us and we're all, you know, there's a oneness in that I didn't experience before, but to keep in touch with craft and the things, the precious things that, you know, the skills we have in our hands and in our souls, that's been really nourishing as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like art has been a tool for both sort of a place to go to when you're feeling almost lost or you need a companion, but also a tool for productivity. I'm hearing that, you know, and it's so interesting throughout the day. I've just been obviously validating something I already believe in and hope other people through these conversations will begin to believe in, that art is this amazing tool for so many things, right? And just these 4 stories we heard that, you know, someone can use it to cope with going through what people have to go through when they have cancer. I mean, that is incredible, but it can also turn around and be a tool you use when you're running a business. And then it can also just be this constant in your life that helps you navigate yourself. And then it can be this tool for connection with other people who might also be trying to navigate through life. I mean, geez, Louise, that's amazing. So I don't really know what else to say other than, you know, is there something that you're doing differently that you've noticed now than let's say before pre-COVID, that is something that shifted in your own art practice or in with anybody you've worked with?
I know that a lot of you have projects through the COVID, right? That were kind of inspired by the COVID. I'd love to also hear about that. Yeah. You know, because you're helping other people cope with this huge trauma that's going on.
So I can share a little bit about that. So my company, since I'm a technologist, so I started a telehealth platform. Basically, is allow elders and patients able to find compatible buddy to build fun, healthy habits together. And then telehealth has long exists for a long, long time. And only until COVID hits, people started to realize this is not a nice to have, it's a must have, right? And so I think in terms of the product, you know, there was some silver lining for what we do, you know, from a technology perspective, that all of a sudden, you know, telehealth become a connecting tool. And then what's also interesting is because we are a unique company that really is bridging creative arts and healthcare with technology. That's our mission, literally, be a global technology leader in bridging creative arts and healthcare. And what's also interesting is like one of my video when I communicated project we started during COVID is that it literally started with Italians singing out of their, do you guys remember that? Singing out of their window?
Yeah,
The
that was great.
neighbors are dancing on patio with each other. And I think art, that's what I say, like art has a unique way to connect with our soul. And then when our humanity is threatened by this global pandemic, we naturally go back to our soul and searching what could help us, right? You know, I mean, no one from the Italian to sing out of the window. They just all do that, right? Because they have that desire to connect, right? And art just had this beautiful way. And when it comes to music, I always had this funny question. I ask people like, okay, if I ask you what kind of music you like, you probably tell me right away. But then if I ask you why, you probably just confused. I'm not sure what the answer is, because in some ways your brain sort of naturally decided for you that what kind of music you're gonna like. You know, I don't know why some people like rock and roll, some people like electronica. And it was really interesting. There's actually a lot of study behind neuroscience and music and how our brain naturally attracted to certain kind of beats. And of course, there's some cultural backgrounds, you know, like where you grew up, you know, like, you know, in our project with dementia patients, like able to be present to their culture, ethnicity, background. This is like super important. But there's still this mystery about why certain people like certain type of music, certain type of art. You know, why certain music make us feel different ways. So like, you know, one of our long-term goal is actually develop this pattern pending AI that really understand the impact of music and dance on human emotions, right? Like, you know, you know, like sad music could actually make you feel better. Not sad. You know, there's like a lot of really interesting intricacy between like how beautifully you could potentially combine art and research and technology. There's also this downside of like overwhelming usage of technology where, you know, Pupa share in that too, right? You know, it's really interesting. Yeah.
Cool. Who's gonna share their their COVID outreach process or programs or?
Maybe I can share.
Yeah.
So what I realized, because I've been a therapist now for I think over 12 years, and I think, you know, for most people, it's a privilege to sit and think and talk about your feelings or express your feelings. And during the pandemic, what I realized is that for a lot of people here in South India, a lot of the local communities, a basic income was really threatened. And I just kind of shifted my priority to supporting them, finding a way to help them cover their basic needs. I mean, then, okay, we can talk about therapy after that, you know, but it's a survival level need. And so I just focused my attention and all my skills in design and love of art and craft. And we created a line of handmade art kits. So we have 12 little kits and all the details are just made with a lot of love, you know, by these artisans. So we have about 100 people in our network. And I mean, it's been a big learning curve for me as well to, you know, manage all of this, but it's so fulfilling to see them supported. And the kits then encourage creativity. So they're just a starting point for people to dive into their own art process. So they can be used therapeutically or they can be used in an educational setting, just playfully, or, you know, it can go to the depths of what creativity can offer. But it's been very exciting to kind of out of this time have a space to focus on what is really important, you know, and what can support more people and to develop this project. So through my organization Sankalpa, we've created this line of kits and they're being shared around the world and encouraging art. So, you know, we're all on the same mission. So that's been really exciting to see it unfold. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. Anybody else?
I'm listening to you guys. I almost had this desire, like I want to see Patricia's photography. I want to see Krupa's art kit. Like I couldn't be present to the art in front of me, you know.
Well, we will definitely share all of the information for everyone, and we encourage you to stay connected with one another and stay connected with us. You know, because we all, Krupa's right, we are all on the same mission, so we'll get there faster if we work together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Does anybody?
I'd love to hear a little bit about for Lauren and Lisa, like how did you guys decided to do this? I think this is really meaningful, like, you know, what like trigger you guys, like we got to do this.
Well, we
You
both
mean
have
like-
we have our graduate degrees in arts and consciousness, and we went to the same grad school, and we were out for like beers, and we just started talking about our core mission of what art does, and that everybody's an artist, and that everybody should be doing it. And then, you know, we just started, like, the energy was there. It just was really like electric. And then we just had these visions. What if we create an art cart? What if there's an art cart in every corner in the world, you know? And then we actually got an art cart, and we, if you want to continue with the story, Lauren, and tell more.
Well, yeah, so we, let's see, yeah, we at the time we had a collaborative, like a year-long project. We had a collective gallery, and so we kind of went around that neighborhood in Oakland, and we would push a cart, and we would stop it randomly and set up a table and art supplies. And it was amazing to watch the neighborhood come together and sit down and make art together, because it was people who actually were not currently getting along with one another, sitting down together. And that sort of validated our hypothesis about art and the fact that it could be used as a bridge to connect people. You know, because we both already knew about how art helps you connect with yourself and express yourself. But we had this idea that art could be this amazing tool for communication among strangers. And the cart kind of validated that. And so we were like, well, there's only two of us, man. We're not gonna get very far. What can we do to expand it? And so we figured out that people were willing to try things that are free. And it's easier if it's done in a public space, because you can't really hide from it, and you get people that wouldn't be looking for it, because that's who we were looking for. We were looking for people who didn't already understand the impact that art could have in their life.
Or have the needs, you know, the means, right. I should say, yeah.
Yeah, the opportunity, really, it was about access as well. And so, yeah, so 11 years ago, we had our first Art Break Day in 5 locations across San Francisco.
But I have to add to that, what was so amazing, because we saw the magic of art, how people connect. But that first year it was amazing. It was epic. It was like there was grandmothers in Chanel suits next to homeless people, next to students, next to toddlers, and everybody's talking. And there was so much joy. Like Lauren and I literally were like, blissed out. We're like, this is amazing. And that was 5 sites. We started 5 sites in San Francisco, and then you can go with that, Lauren.
Well, then we just kind of opened it up, because we realized, I mean, we got a ton of great feedback. And then, you know, we've had folks like Krupa. You've been on with us for about 8 years now. Shraddha, you've been with us for, did you say 2, right? 3 years. And so it's just like slowly it's been growing. And so when we had to go virtual, we had sort of collected this network of people that we knew were sort of on a similar mission to us. So we're like, well, maybe we should just start talking about it and putting it out there for people who maybe haven't heard this idea that art should be part of your daily life. And what we're finding through these conversations is that there's a lot of people who've had a lot of different experiences and have a lot of different ways of expressing the power of art. And it's great to get them all together, because then it's sort of the ripple effect, right? Yeah. They'll share it, and you never know what you say, you know, how it'll affect someone. So the power of conversation is pretty amazing. So thank you for joining us. It's been our pleasure. And, you know, I think it's kind of amazing to listen to people's stories about how they personally use art to cope and how they've helped others cope. And, you know, and how, yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah, for me, it talks about the power of art, and each story that is shared, like your stories, it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of like the individual becomes the universal. So it's like, and Krupa's story might speak to one person, but then it becomes, you know, the unification of the whole. So Yeah, it's been a magical day. I mean, it's always magical day, Art Break Day. So
I started.
One thing I really got present. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, it's been beautiful to hear all your stories. I want to add something that I did with a couple of friends for Uganda. I got I'm an EMDR clinician. EMDR is a psychotherapy focused especially on trauma, but we're going beyond trauma. But one of my friends in Germany who speaks, she's German, speaks Spanish, and asked me if we could do something and support a project, and we found a project in Uganda. And since I had started searching for how art and music benefits our mental health, but I had the idea, okay, I'm an expert in trauma, but since I don't speak the language, and though they speak English, but and this is really needed in our human soul. We are humans, right? Sapiens, and sapiens, not Neanderthals, or we wipe out of the other species. But since we are able to do art and sing as a species, so this is something that it's in our core as humans. That's why we are able to do art, any one of us. It's not, some people, of course, they are artists and beautiful artists, but if we say that to ourselves, and in my case, to our patients. So we started writing a project, introducing art and sports as resources, installation through butterfly hug. So, so you do that. So we took. She stayed in Germany, and I got supported by EMDR Spain. Thanks, EMDR Spain. And so I was able to go to a transitional justice program in northern Uganda. Uganda has been 20 years. They had a genocide war 20 years ago. And so, and then I had the chance to visit the kids at the orphanage. And then I took my guitar teacher to do music. So I wish I could share the video we did. I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
And so we took music and sports and to the kids who are privileged now. But we took that to the northern Uganda area where still the wounds are open, the war wounds in their bodies. And there are many sexual violence, sexual violence, rape violence, rape as a weapon of war. Yeah. So, and my friend in the northern part, Harriet Adam, who is now like a sister to me, and her family asked me, why don't we do something for trauma people, trauma in the community that they need it. And I said, well, I'll be only 3 days. So you'll see the results if we start doing dancing, cultural exchange. People spoke their own language, not even English, because most educated people speak English, but in that area, So you should, these people, I have this photographic and video memory. I don't need to take video, but I remember them. These three, 100 people, I don't know how many people, more than 100, their faces, they had walked so long to gather us to get to meet us. And we started using a board to introduce ourselves. And then we started exchanging cultural dances and games. And then we start playing football, which, football is a key to, everyone to be part. And although I did not speak the language, at the end, I said, thank you in their language. And they were so happy. They start singing, and you could see the change after a couple of hours. I don't know, maybe more than a couple of hours doing sports and singing. How these people that had I remember one kid, she was about 11 years, and she said, I had a back pain, I had this, and after doing this, I feel much better. I don't feel the pain in my body anymore.
Wow.
So we need to do this in communities.
Yes.
And in our, it's amazing to hear that your art chart, how art people want to do something and start talking. And
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
amazing, right?
It
So
is.
like also Shraddha that did not speak the language, and that help you to start a community. So this I love the idea, your idea, which I don't know how COVID impact on this, right?
Yeah.
And so now we have to clean everything and don't be, social distancing. It's very hard nowadays to do art community, but let's think about how, or could you share besides, your take a break, take an art break is a wonderful idea for everyone.
Yeah, I think I like the kits. We have a kit going that we've been sending out to little libraries in the United States. I was thinking of that when Krupa said that she made kits. Kits seem to be a really good solution temporarily until we can all kind of get back together safely. It's I agree that I like to get offline to take an art break, but I'm trying to encourage people to share their art more online, because that's the best way for us to see it for the time being as well. So we're all creative. We'll come up with new ways of connecting through art. So that's the gift of being in touch with your creativity, is you always find a way.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to share is that I was very inspired by what you guys share, and like art for peace, because I'm always a deep believer for art for change, right? Like,
Right.
there's so many things art could raise, a conversation about whatever the topic that like the artist is committed to, right? And at Dance for Healing, what we actually got present this year actually is because all the Black Lives Matters, all the global pandemic really got us to be present, that one of our vision is also to become a global cultural hub, that we could bring sort of the rich set of arts and culture and heritage from, like, say, Africa, from India, from Middle East, and then bring it online and then literally spread around the world, because I see that is a bridge because art has no borders, right?
Yes.
And then I see that as a bridge to become more mutual understanding. There's less racism, there's less, whether it's anti-Black life or anti-Asian life, like that's been probably one of the biggest challenges during this pandemic, right? Like, I mean, you guys probably might have seen those video of Asian grandpa got pushed down the street, and it's really disheartening, right? So I definitely see that, like, art has this unique way to connect humanity, and it's a powerful tool for peace. And then what's also really interesting is we were part of the Founder Institute, which is this incubator for startups that they got us to be present to the UN's 21 initiative. And then we had to go in and search which one is your company actually addressing, right? And then I wanted to look at it. And to my surprise, one of the ones we're addressing is really sort of this sort of kind of preserve heritage of the culture. Like that's one of the main UN goals too. And then what's also funny is my hometown in China, just a month ago, actually a month and a half ago in July, got recognized as World Heritage Site by UN, the UNESCO, because the city that I was from is actually one of the oldest city in ancient Silk Road.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I know, isn't that funny? And in fact, the name of the city that was in our dialect, that it was so in so many literature in European culture, that they didn't know, they couldn't find a city because it's in our dialect. It wasn't the official name of our city until they eventually find a tombstone that, because what happened is, since this is like one of the oldest ancient Silk Road import, like, what do you call it, exploring, like seaports. So we have the oldest Muslim temples, the Jewish temples, the largest Tao sculpture, the Buddhism, like a lot of these really rich exchange of world culture and art, literally where I was grew up, and it's funny that the culture, I think in itself is also a lot of mix of these kind of things too, right? And then apparently one of their probably old merchant father passed away, and then it was buried in our city. And then in the tombstone, they have, reside in the city of, I think it's called Zaitang or something. It's like literally our dialect. And then that started to connecting the dots. Like, oh, that's the city everybody was talking about.
Wow.
Back in Europe, it was so funny. Yeah, so it just like, even me got really present that grew up there. I did not realize there's so many, about like 60 historical sites throughout the different parts of the city that I wasn't even aware of, but it's suddenly embedded deeply in my heart, because I grew up in that culture, right? Yeah, and then also allow me to see like how powerful art can be. It's really connecting, the world culture and arts together and the humanity together. And then one of the things also, like in terms of the dance, like in Dance for Healing, we are very committed to like dances for everyone. It's like dance for all body of abilities.
Yeah.
Because I think our society tend to put this facade of like, oh, dance, it's like, it's a stage performance. You have to be like choreography and all that, like, kind of like putting sort of this block, and people can just like dance, right? And then the funniest beer ad that I saw is in the super white neighborhood in LA. I was walking to an old diner and there's this giant beer ad right at the door. And guess what it says? It says, helping white boy dance since 1960.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that just like shows you it's kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I'm so excited about like your commitment of how art connects with people.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it also connects you with history, right? Your
Yes.
ancestry. That's amazing.
But also, I just want to add, but it seems like on the Silk Road, it was all these merging of different cultures, and they were all getting along. I mean, that was that was an amazing moment in history where it was a melting of
Yes.
arts and cultures, and so kind of going back to that Renaissance.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was also funny is they found a ship that was deep under the ocean, and then so I think there was a lot of exploring from like our hometown, which is like porcelains and like all these different ones, and they preserve so well when they take it out. This becomes like a huge collection. It's almost like as big as like the largest museum in China that consider like a good collection. Like the type of, because this is like our city was back in Yuan dynasty, Yuan and Song dynasty. I don't even know how many century that ago. I was already exporting all these arts and porcelains and different things, teas and silk and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Wow, what a rich history. Wow. I just want to say thank you to everyone for
thank you
tonight for this conversation. We'll definitely put information about all of you in the description so we can stay connected with one another, and anybody who's interested can connect you. If anybody has any last words they want to share or thoughts before we just say thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say quickly, because you brought up this, idea of before and how community art was before the pandemic. And I have the most vivid memory, which is really only possible because of both of you sending me art supplies here in the middle of nowhere. And, we had, I think there was 1 year early on, we had almost 300 people, and it was the same, convergence of just the most unexpected people, unable to speak to each other, but really coming together. And I just, I really savor those moments, especially now. So thank you for everything you've made possible. And all the people.
Right back at you. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. So I hope we can get back to that place again.
Me too.
Near future, because it is, you can attest to it as well. It's a powerful thing to watch people who've never met before make art together. It's powerful.
It's magic, as Shraddha said, it's total magic.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. I look forward to chatting with you again soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Yeah, in Cuba, in Shraddha, I love to learn more. I kind of feel bad we sort of take over too much time talking tonight. I love to connect with you guys offline and learn more about your art. Yeah.
Right. I'm just going to stop the live.
Nice.